I'm Tony Sklar with bnetTV. We are here live from CTIA Wireless 2012 from the floor. I am speaking with Mr. Parry LaForge from the Device Renewal Forum. How are you today, sir?
Doing great, thank you.
So you are the chairman of
Yes.
the Device Renewal Forum. Why don't you tell our viewers about it and why you're here at CTIA?
Okay. Well, we formed the Device Renewal Forum, announced it at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. We formed it specifically to stimulate the renewal market, that is, renewal of cellular devices. If you look at the statistics, 1.68 billion cellular handsets are produced a year. Less than 1% of those are actually recycled or renewed. So the statistics are, pretty overwhelming how poorly the industry is doing in terms of sustainability projects. So we came together as a group. Our founders included Sprint, Brightstar, e-recycling, and we've now added Value Tech, RE Cellular, and one of the other founders was Moduslink. And we have the express notion of trying to stimulate this market, and we're going to do it by creating a common test specification that allows people to understand that if a phone has been renewed according to our standards, it meets certain quality characteristics, performance characteristics, because there's really just too much stuff, non-quality stuff hitting the market. So this is going to create sort of the gold standard of renewed devices.
Why did it take so long for something like this to sort of form? It kind of seems like I don't want to equate it to like the CRT, movement, but obviously we all knew that these devices were only good for 2 years, maybe 3 tops, pushing 4, but especially in North America, we renew these things because they're under contract. Hey, I got my upgrade, right? I got a new phone because my contract was up. I mean, it happens all the time. So, what were some of those challenges?
The challenges is the industry needed to come together, and it was sort of a small mom and pop kind of industry that's grown into this huge industry now, and that's what the DRF is doing, is just pulling all the disparate players together to agree on a common approach to test. It's not an easy thing to do to get that agreement, but we can do it, and then we'll do that across the globe. It's not just a domestic issue. It's in the U.S. here. We have interest from the European operators, from the Asian operators, manufacturers out of Asia. So it's a worldwide issue, and we'll address it on a worldwide basis.
So a lot of companies have started buyback programs, right? Which is fantastic. But are the carriers going to get heavily involved so that you can actually take your phone back, give it to the carrier, and say, hey,
So collection is collection. So
yeah.
it could take place at a carrier.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of guys that we call collectors out there now that collect phones and give you money for the phones.
Right.
So that process is starting to form.
Okay.
But it's what happens with the phone after it that we're really addressing.
Someone's going to have a big warehouse full of inventory kind of thing.
And how are those phones processed? And to what grade are they processed? So if a phone has been severely damaged because of water or what have you, does that make it back into the market? Well, it may if it's been properly tested and right components. But the last thing we want to see is phones collected and then hitting other markets and not being actually performed well on the carrier's network and actually degrading the network. So what we're going to do is create this gold standard of devices.
And is it something that's going to be a little bit easier to oversee for compliance reasons because the new smartphones have the ability to, well, they just got better electronics, right? The networks aren't going to change that much in the next 5 to 10 years, and these smartphones inevitably.
It's really not a function of it being smartphones.
Okay.
I mean, the industry could have done this for feature phones as well.
Okay.
But I think what it is more a matter of there's a large number now, and the economics are there that it makes sense to do this.
Okay.
And whether it's a feature phone or a smartphone, or even eventually maybe an M2M module.
Okay.
We have to address this issue because it's just what's happening is the replacement cycles are still accelerating, and there's just more devices coming out because the numbers are larger.
Right.
So we have to address it. It's a major environmental.
I mean, when I originally first said, the idea, that we're sort of equated to the CRT kind of era, but there are so many more phones than there are, there were ever CRTs, and what ends up happening when those phones do get recycled? They go into these emerging market areas. Then, how, are they still really only 2-year devices, or is that something that you're sort of looking at? Well, they can probably last another 4 or 5 years.
Well, we want to create the specs so that when they enter those markets, they meet a certain quality, technically, and also cosmetic grade, that they're almost like new. It's so, we like to liken it to what happens in the used car industry.
Okay.
Where people, there's a certain, used car comes in, it's certified by the dealer, it's got a certain certification mark to it. We're looking to do that, and the DRF will actually create a brand that says, certified by the DRF. And that, to carriers and ultimately to consumers, that will mean a certain thing.
Okay, well that's...
And so, ostensibly these phones would be good enough to last longer in the marketplace.
Trusted stamps.
And you could say, well, certain people might not want this to happen. Would a new phone manufacturer want this to happen? But if you think about it in a broader context, devices are going to be going out into the market. Used devices are going to be recycled anyway. So you want to try to control that process and do it in an organized fashion. So that's why using a mark like this, even for an OEM type vendor that's producing new phones, makes sense, because you don't want phones floating out into markets that have been improperly reworked with your brand on it.
No,
right?
you don't.
And if you're an operator, you don't want a phone floating around with your brand on it in a market and messing up your system if it's not been properly tested or what have you. So what we're trying to do is we recognize that this industry is going to grow, whether we like it or not. Of course, we like it. It makes sense for the environment. But you need to control it and do it in a reasonable fashion. This is how we're going to do it.
Harry, I really like the direction that you're going with this. It's green, it's economical, it's something. It makes sense, and it's good global corporate responsibility.
And I'm excited about the founding members that we had. Brightstar, Sprint, MotusLink, and e-recycling did a fantastic job helping us get this off, and we're actively working on the specs right now, getting going, and we'll continue to grow this thing.
Fantastic. Thanks for taking the opportunity to speak with us. I hope we get a chance for an update again in the future, and good luck with the corporate responsibility. I like that. Very nice job.
Thank you for your help.
Been speaking with Harry LaForge of the DRF. I am Tony Sklar here on the floor at CTIA 2012 with bnetTV.